Ciryl Gane demolishes Serghei Spivac, gets called out by Tom Aspinall, and has his house robbed during UFC Paris. Ciryl Gane hurt all the critics ahead of UFC Fight Night 226 over his quick submission loss to Jon Jones for the UFC heavyweight belt. The fighter admitted he felt pressured to perform in front of his home country as the main event at the UFC Paris. "I'm not going to lie, I've got the pressure, and I want to do well," Gane told reporters at the post-fight news conference. "This is not a game of basketball or soccer. That's different. Just that, you have some emotion that's really different. I was a little bit afraid, a little bit pressured. You want to do well. I'm really happy about that, because that was my mission. My last fight was bad, so today it was my mission to prove I'm still here, so let's go to the belt now." The 33-year-old Frenchman didn't disappoint the crowd in Paris, beating Serghei Spivac in a one-sided fight via second-round TKO. Tom Aspinall has been campaigning to fight the winner of Gane vs Spivac since his quick win over Marcin Tybura back in July. And the fighter was seated cage-side to watch Gane's masterclass. But in his Octagon interview, when Ciryl Gane was asked about Aspinall's call-out, the Frenchman demurred fighting him next. Given the uncertainty of the heavyweight division, and Sergei Pavlovich serving as a backup fighter for the championship bout between Jones and Miocic at UFC 295, Gane believes the division is a bit clouded, and the fighter didn't call his shot. Instead, he wants to wait to see how things are going to play out. "This is a new era for the heavyweight division, and you have some big movement. We were waiting for a big title fight with two GOATs. Maybe they're going to retire. So for me, a good way is to go back. It was my mission tonight to shine and prove I'm still here, and I want to go back to the belt. We will see. We will see for the moment." According to a report from French newspaper, Le Parisien, Thieves forced entry into Gane's home during his main event bout, and reportedly damaged the house and stole items totaling over $166,000. Besides the sad news about having his home burglarized, the fighter feels he is back on track after his masterclass win over Spivac. The former UFC interim heavyweight champion took home an extra $50,000 for his performance of the night bonus. The other performance of the night went to Frenchman UFC newcomer Morgan Charrier, who scored a highlight reel first-round knockout of Manolo Zucchini. And the fight of the night bonus went to Benoit Saint-Denis and Thiago Moises, which Saint-Denis won via second-round TKO. Rose Namajunas has gruesome injury at UFC Paris. In the co-main event of UFC Paris last Saturday, former two-time strawweight champion Rose Namajunas lost in unanimous decision to French fighter Manon Fiorot. During the first round of the fight, the UFC commentators suspected something was wrong with Rose's hand, and in between rounds, the fighter mentioned to her corner that something was wrong with her finger. Following the event, Rose's manager confirmed on multiple social media outlets that the fighter broke her hand in the opening round, even posting a photo of a splint on his Instagram story. Despite the injury, Namajunas was competitive throughout the bout, even winning the third round on two of the judges' scorecards. With her flyweight debut loss, it remains to be seen whether Thug Rose will give it another shot at this new weight class, or move back down to strawweight, where the 31-year-old holds two victories over current champion Zhang Weili. What do you think? Is Namajunas too small for flyweight? Who do you want to see her fight next? Paul Felder back in USADA pool, Laura Sanko makes pay-per-view debut. Paul Felder might join the retired UFC Fighters Club who can't stay too long away from competition. Felder got MMA fans excited about the possibility of one more UFC bout, and while he's back in USADA pool, the fighter says it's not an official decision. "I have no idea if I'm fighting," Felder said on the UFC Paris pre-fight show. "I rolled with Michael Chiesa this week. Honest to God, I know it blew up on social media, but I'm back training, I'm enjoying MMA again. For all the people that think I need both hips replaced, I have bad hips, there's no secret about that. I've had bad hips for years. But I am back in the USADA testing pool. That's exactly where I'm at, but that is it." Felder's last fight was against former lightweight champion Rafael dos Anjos at UFC Vegas 14 back in November of 2020, where the fighter picked up the fight on short notice, and lost via split decision. The Irish Dragon mentioned he had been back and forth on thoughts of retirement following a close decision loss to Dan Hooker at UFC Auckland in February 2020, and ended up announcing his retirement in May of 2021. However, Felder said the Korean Zombie's performance against Max Holloway inspired him for a possible return. Felder's decision of getting back in the USADA testing pool is not a confirmation of another fight happening, but the fighter is certainly keeping the doors open for the possibility. With longtime commentator Joe Rogan not on the call due to UFC 293 being an international pay-per-view event, Laura Sanko might be getting the opportunity to debut in a pay-per-view card. Sanko has called several UFC Fight Night events for the promotion and has served as a regular color commentator for Dana White's Contender Series. If this plan comes to fruition, she gets a much-deserved opportunity at UFC 293, joining lead play-by-play voice John Anik, along with former two-division world champion Daniel Cormier. UFC 293 is headlined by a rivalry between Israel Adesanya and Sean Strickland for the UFC middleweight belt. Taito Avasa vs. Alexander Volkov serves as the co-main event of this card on Saturday, September 9th. What do you think? Who do you want to see Felder fight coming out of retirement? And do you think Laura Sanko is what it takes to fill in for Joe Rogan?